And welcome back to Lantern Corp's video. And today we get one from Lord Magnus, who asked the question, what Lantern Corp do I think Thor, the God of Thunder from Marvel Comics, belongs in? And let us be clear, you were asking about Thor, not the MCU Thor. Remember, the MCU characters are different depictions of they hold the general core principles of the comic characters, generally speaking. But they are different than their comic counterparts. So we have to be very clear about the distinction. We are using the comic Thor. And when looking over the comic Thor, I admit there is actually quite a few areas Lantern Corps he can qualify for. Some that he just doesn't flat out qualify for. Let's get a couple of the ones he just doesn't flat out qualify for out of the way. Then we can talk about the ones I think he does qualify in, and also talk about the ones that have a possibility to him but are unlikely. Right out the gate, let's get it out of the way. Avarice is not a Lantern Corps for Thor. Now, one of the unique things about the Thor character is the fact that we do get, not just him talking and his interactions, do we get an idea of his personality, but just by the fact that he's worthy of holding Mjolnir. He's worthy of wielding Mjolnir. It gives you an idea of his character. And because of that, between what we've seen of Thor and the fact that he's worthy of wielding Mjolnir, tells us that avarice is just not something that's in his veins, pretty much. Another one that just doesn't seem to work for him is love. Now, I'm sure that the comic version of Thor has had love interest. I know he has. But the question isn't, has he ever felt the emotion? The question is that emotion the emotion that dominates him and therefore would be the Lantern Corp he would fall in? And the answer to that is pretty obviously no. Love is not what drives him. I'm certain he's had many loves before, and he may have many loves later in the comics going forward. But if talking about what drives the character, what the emotion dominates him, it's not love. Nor is it rage. Rage is not a defining characteristic of Thor. Now, if we are talking about Thor when he goes into Warrior's Madness, that is a different type of Thor. In those circumstances, yeah, that would actually probably be the most likely candidate. But at the same time, you again have to factor in, what is the emotion that normally dominates him? What is the thing? And by the way, why will is an emotion I don't actually know, but it is. What is the thing that normally dominates him? And rage, Thor, for all of his anger that he does carry with him to some degree, because he's seen a lot of things that make him angry, he's a god for a reason. He knows how to control his emotions and temper his anger. I literally just watched a video where Moon Knight was taking down the Avengers, and he took down Thor by throwing a bunch of moons at him. Don't ask. And then Thor got up, pissed off, obviously. But it's not like he was dominated by his anger to begin with. Thor's actually not a dumb guy either. He is a bit of a hothead, though. So you can... The briefest of arguments can be made for Thor being a Red Lantern, but that really only applies for the Warrior's Madness and those brief stints of rage. But even then, we all get angry at points. If you've never been angry before, you're a sociopath. So we all get angry at points. And that doesn't immediately mean we qualify for a Green Lantern can get angry. That doesn't mean that he immediately turns into a Red Lantern. So there you go. And great segue to the fact that, speaking of which, one of the categories he obviously would fall into would be a Green Lantern. It's just pretty obvious. Apart from the fact that he's worthy to wield Mjolnir, the fact that he needs to know how to wield Mjolnir, geez, that sentence is hard to say multiple times in quick succession. The fact that he had to learn how to manipulate Mjolnir, had to just overcome Ragnarok, the World Serpent, trying to think, well, who else? Beta Ray Bill, Gore the God Butcher, God knows how many others. That takes the amount, the kind of willpower that a Green Lantern would definitely use. He's overcome great fear before. He's had to fight his, I believe it's his uncle, who is the god of fear, who is allegedly going to be in the next Thor movie and played by Christian Bale, hopefully. So Green just makes sense for this character, 100%. Another one that makes sense, though to a lesser extent, if I'm going to be honest, is fear. Now, Thor is not, despite all of Thor's power, and Thor is an extremely powerful character, he isn't one of those characters that when he just shows up ready to fight, you go, oh god, it's awards, or people just kind of crap their pants. He's more someone's like, crap, it's Thor. It's like getting ready to fight the God of Thunder kind of crap. That's not to say, though, that his power wouldn't inspire fear. And by that extension, I do have to at least consider fear as a candidate. Talking real quick about another one that I just don't think he's really qualified for, but I could see maybe the briefest arguments, is Compassion, the Indigo Corps. And the reason for that is, more than anything, while he's certainly got compassion, it's not his defining trait, because he doesn't see the world like a mortal does. He sees the world as a god does. And because of that, he is prone to make judgments that aren't necessarily the most compassionate of such. Stepping into problems with a different mindset think words here. Stepping into a problem with a different mindset that would get than a non-mortal would have, a non-god would have, means that while he certainly has compassion, it's selective and it's stinted to some degree. Still, you can't say that he doesn't have it, but again, I just don't think he's the best candidate for a Lantern Corps of Compassion. But a candidate I think he is good for is the Blue Lanterns. I actually think he wouldn't be a bad Blue Lantern. Because he's lost faith and then regained his faith when it comes to the Odin Force, his ability to wield Mjolnir, to be worthy of his power, the people's faith in him as a hero. Blue really would not be a bad Lantern Corps for him. The only catch here is that the Blue Lantern Corps of Blue, the Blue Lantern Corps of Will, it's the Lantern Corps of Hope. Hope, and if you lose hope, like, you need to still, no matter how much faith other people put in you, you still need to keep a certain level of hope. If you despair, if you lose hope, you'll lose the ring. It's kind of like will. If you suddenly just lose your ability to believe in yourself, fear overcomes you, you'll lose the ability to use that ring. If you lose all your rage, you're finally subsided, you will lose the ability to use the Rage Lantern, Lantern Ring of Rage. All the rings have requirements to use them. If you can't scare anyone, a Yellow Lantern Ring is going to be very minimal in power comparatively. If you don't feel love, a Sapphire Lantern Ring isn't going to do much, so forth and so on. The only one that's kind of an exception to that is the Indigo Lanterns. That's because you either need to have a lot of compassion, it's got to be your best trait, or you got to have no compassion. That's the kicker there. If you only have compassion, but other emotions as well dominate, then yeah, that's when you're screwed. But anyway, yeah, and it's one of the things that, while I think he might be a good candidate for it, the question is, could he maintain having a lantern ring? My guess is probably not, because he's a bit headstrong, and he's not. Most candidates who wield a blue lantern ring, they act similar to like a monk would. They're very calm individuals. They're very not seeking violence if they can afford to, whereas Thor kind of constantly seeks out conflict so he can quell it and get a good fight in. So while he could make a good candidate in theory, he does have a lot of character flaws that hurt it. So last two real quick we got to talk about is the Black Lantern Corps, which I do think is the other Lantern Corps he could qualify for, on the simple grounds that he has died twice. He's come back, but he's died twice, so therefore he could be a Black Lantern. Would that be the most likely ring he'd get? Probably not. His will, his ability to scare people probably supersede the Black Lantern ring, but I should note that Black Lantern ring is the candidate here. But what about the White Lantern ring? The White Lantern ring of life. Because he has a portion of the Odins Force, that's a portion of life energy right there. You could make the argument for it. The problem is that he's alive, yes, and he's a very long-lived individual. So those things trace alone also up his chances of being a White Lantern. But the problem is, to be a White Lantern, you have to guard, nurture life, feel alive, experience life, and protect life. In essence, you can't really kill something. And Thor's kind of in that category of, I've killed a lot of people. So I don't think, in most any other categories or circumstances, I think White would probably be a decent shot. But in this case, I don't think it's the right fit for him. I could be wrong. I mean, that's just my opinion. So I guess out of the candidates we have here, I've already kind of tipped my hand that I don't think he's going to be a Black Lantern. Is it blue? Is it green, yellow, or is it green? Well, I'm going to throw blue out of the equation. While I think he could be a good Blue Lantern and could qualify, he couldn't maintain that ring. He couldn't hold on to that ring for an extended period of time. Whereas the yellow and the green, he definitely could. In that case, then what comes after that? Is it yellow or is it green? Well, ultimately, I got to go with the Green Lantern ring. It seems like a cop-out answer, but ultimately, a lot of these heroes are Green Lanterns at heart. Just because of the nature of the characters. Now, some characters that have, other personality traits that we've seen, again, aka a Wolverine, a Batman. I'm just thinking of a couple other ones real quick off the top of my head. Spawn. Characters who clearly have other categories instead of just being like the chivalrous good guy, all that. Then you have a different argument there. But unfortunately, with someone like Thor, who certainly has the qualifications for a few different rings, it's clear his willpower, his chivalry, his will to keep going on, to fight through the forces of hell, all that, it clearly outweighs the other three, I think. Like, if they were talking about Captain America, Captain America would probably be a Blue Lantern, 100%. Because Captain America is the leader of the Avengers for a reason. He will rally you. He will inspire hope just by his words alone. Captain America is by far, and whenever we get to Captain America, he is a Blue Lantern through and through. Or possibly a combination of blue and green. Let's be clear about that as well. Because they're probably the only two rings that can go together and be used simultaneously. But ultimately, yeah, I gotta go with green. But let's be fair here. If I didn't say green, out of the 4 I gave, and remaining 3, which one do I go beyond that between green? Because I think black's probably the least likely. Do I think blue or yellow? I think probably yellow, then I go blue, and then I go black. So that's my thoughts on what Lantern Corps I believe Thor belongs in. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll review it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, Superior Magic, What If, anything I do on the channel. Put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to the review of it at some point. Hit that bell if you want notifications. I will be back with the What If for today. This is not the new What If. That's going to be the long-term What If, replacing the Makoto adopting Naruto one. This is just a kind of space filler one for Tuesday. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.